We are here today to celebrate a monumental achievement on behalf of our residents. With the passage of the fiscal year 2022 budget, which is a culmination of months of collaborative work that began in late spring, seems like a lifetime ago. Work with community leaders, community-based organizations, advocates, residents, and our City Council colleagues. With the passage of this budget, the collective we are serving notice that our future as a great global city lies in all 77 of our neighborhoods, all of them, and that we will leave no one behind. In this moment, slowly but surely coming out of a pandemic and recovering from a significant economic decline, we must recognize that because of compounded historical wrongs, the pandemic's impact was felt and experienced differently across our neighborhoods. I think of us as leaders, I think all of us as leaders have constantly thought about what it means to serve in these challenging times. Our challenge has been to rise to the occasion and be worthy of the trust bestowed upon us. And for me personally, one of our key challenges and necessities has been crafting and passing this resiliency and recovery budget. Sitting and listening to a speaker recently at Tim L. Black's funeral, I was reminded that in public life, we must never lose sight of our roles and responsibilities, specifically that no matter how high we may rise, no matter how many corridors of power we stride down or tables of influence at which we dine, we must never forget our duties to our people. And for me, that means never forgetting from whence I come. I am a child of the working class. I am a daughter of a disabled, discriminated against son of the Jim Crow South, for whom throughout his life, opportunity seemed completely beyond his grasp. I was birthed and nurtured by a woman who always holds her head up high, no matter the barriers or the buffeting winds. And I am the beneficiary of so many hands who reached out to me and showed me by their acts of kindness and sacrifice that we must be each other's keepers, or as the great poet Gwendolyn Brooks said, each other's business. So what is my charge in this moment? As mayor, but even more so, as a blessed and fortunate human being, my charge is to never shed the cloak of humility and humanity that countless people along my life's journey have created for me. I wear that cloak proudly. It means that I must see and bear witness to the tens and thousands of my neighbors, our neighbors, who are in need. I see them because I am them, and I hear them, and I am duty-bound to use my platform and power to build systems that support wellness and prosperity for them all. Because doing so not only helps them, it helps each and every one of us. You've heard me say this many times, but it bears repeating here and now. Neglect is not cost-free. There is a moral imperative to right historic wrongs of disinvestment, neglect, and systemic and intentional discrimination. No child in this wealthy city should ever be living on the streets, not have clean clothes to wear, shoes on her feet, and a safe and secure home in which she can lay her head. And every child, regardless of the circumstances into which they were born, must have every opportunity that my daughter has to live a good life and be set up for success so that she can thrive to achieve her God-given potential. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud of this budget. Truly the most progressive and forward-looking budget in our city's history. I want to especially thank Chairman Pat Dow for her steadfast leadership and support through yet another budget season. She's a no-nonsense pragmatist who runs this process with integrity, diligence, and attention to detail. Thank you, Chairman Dow. I want to also thank and acknowledge Chairman Scott Wagesback, the Finance Committee Chairman, who has brought integrity, transparency, and acts as a fiscal fiduciary for our taxpayers. His stewardship of the Finance Committee has put us on the right track and will continue to do so. So thank you, Chairman Wagesback. I need to also thank the caucus co-chairs, my floor leaders, Michelle Harris and George Cardenas, and the other key older people who advocated and stood for what is right and good in this budget, as well as the many advocates and everyday residents who helped to move it forward. This year, we began to move from the pandemic. We still face a city rife with emotional pain and economic loss, caused or exacerbated by this crisis. Our challenge was to face these issues head on and to make sure that our investments and policy prescriptions met the moment and reflected the lived experience of our residents. The investments we have in store with the passage of this budget reflect our ultimate goals, which are to create a safer, more equitable, and inclusive Chicago, where people can take root, raise a family, build a business, and make a better lives for themselves. To fulfill this goal, we must make investment that increase safety in our communities and accelerate our economic recovery, while continuing to ensure that all Chicagoans have the services that they need to live life in our city. Chicago must be a place where everyone, no matter which of our 77 neighborhoods in which you live, that everyone feels free to leave their home, walk their block, and live their lives in peace and safety. During the pandemic, every system that we rely upon for safety and security broke down. Our family systems that were plagued by sickness and death, our school systems were closed, our social service systems were unable to reach people and provide direct assistance, and our criminal justice ecosystem simply fell apart. As a result, we have and continue to see an unacceptable escalation in many social ills, including violence. This budget attacks these problems head on. So this is not only a resiliency and recovery budget, but also one that continues the hard but necessary work of eradicating the root causes of violence and strengthening systems that support wellness and ensure that our youth, families, and communities can thrive. Community violence, ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, is symptomatic of deeper, long-standing problems. We need to continue to strike hard and fair blows against our common enemy of gangs and guns, and continue demanding that the perpetrators of violence are held accountable. But our violence reduction strategy must be centered around cutting off the pipeline of souls lost to the streets and vulnerable to the predatory tactics of heartless gang members who demonstrate through their carnage that they are enemies of people of goodwill. For that reason, we are investing over $770 million in efforts that will help our youth, young adults, and families thrive and make our communities safer. To address the immediate pain that people are experiencing, we now have, I am proud to say, the largest targeted economic relief program in the history of this country. I've talked about many times where I'm from. I remember nights watching my parents sit around our kitchen table with the bills all spread out, trying to figure out how they were going to make ends meet, how to make the mortgage payment or utilities or the car payment, and always feeling like they were coming up short, constantly trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. We know that there are families that are going through that same exercise every single day in our city. And what we also know is that having extra income consistently for some time can make the difference for the working poor who are living on the cusp of financial ruin. That's why $35 million of the $157 million that we're investing in family assistance programs will fund the largest pilot program in the country, providing $500 a month to 5,000 families with cash assistance to lift them up out of poverty. Now, this program is controversial for some, but for me, it just makes plain sense. Of course, we need to teach people how to fish. But right now, in this moment, with so many people suffering in pain and worried about financial ruin, this is what we must do to make sure that these families don't slip into the abyss. Being able to provide a steady monthly stipend can make all the difference for a household that needs just that much more to restabilize and be positioned to move forward. So a big, hearty thanks to the many advocates and members of the council and my team who helped shape this very important relief program. My friends, this is a moment of pride for our city. I want to also talk a bit about our mental health investments, because our people cannot thrive without the resources needed to address the cumulative trauma that many have experienced in communities across our great city. We made historic mental health investments in the 2020 and 2021 budgets, tripling that of 2019's, including building a network of mental health centers, including CDPH1 clinics, that has served 300% more people this year alone. More people than we've ever served in any single year funded by city dollars. This budget enables us not only to expand services at our clinics, but more importantly, expand our network of trauma-informed centers of care, 31 strong in 34 communities, so that we have greater reach and accessibility across our city. And Mark, you can clap for that. But that's not all, because we cannot have a build it and they will come approach to mental health. An ecosystem approach creates many pathways to healing, all of which are being expanded through this budget. Like, for example, our alternate response pilot programs that have multidisciplinary teams responding to 911 calls, a 211 system that will enable you to make a non-emergency call for crisis help and information, triage and sobering centers where people with mental and behavioral health needs can get the medical treatment they need instead of being sent to an emergency room and then being dumped back out in the street or worse, locked up. And assertive community treatment where clinicians embrace and support their clients in homes for the unsheltered on the street. We will do all of that with the dedicated funds of $108 million. COVID has introduced deeper levels of pain and grieving, and we are acknowledging and responding to those needs with this budget. Let's talk about our youth. We must work to ensure fewer young people and young adults find themselves out of school or out of work, and we have to connect them to opportunities so that they can have a sustainable life. Through over $65 million in this budget, we will be able to deepen our investments in our young people by funding incredible community-based youth organizations and initiatives through My Shy, My Future, our administration's signature youth program, which will bring a laser focus on connecting youth to opportunities in 15 communities hardest hit by violence. We will also fund intensive programs for youth and young adults who have been justice involved. We know from research-based programs like Choose to Change, led and created by Jadine Chow at CPS, that these beautiful young souls often need more than a typical after-school program to address trauma-related needs through intensive supports. We look forward to creating wraparound programs and jobs for young people, not just during the summer, but year-round. And to our families, to fully help our young people chase their dreams and reach their potential, we must ensure that their families have good-paying, sustainable jobs and a roof over their heads. With this budget, we are investing in workforce supports that enable those who need most the jobs, like our returning residents and residents in high unemployment communities, that they have the tools that they need to obtain those jobs and to succeed. We will also create and upgrade more than 4,000 affordable housing units with our $157 million investment. And with another $117 million, we will continue to invest in initiatives like the Flexible Housing Pool, which connects individuals with complex needs to supportive housing and access to needed services, and rehabilitate and strengthen our shelter system so that we can continue to stand ready to house the unsheltered as we work to rapidly rehouse them, as we did for over 1,200 individuals during the height of the COVID pandemic. All of these investments, well over $770 million in total, when you also include direct investments in violence prevention, gender-based violence, and our Community Safety Coordination Center. All these investments collectively help address the root causes of violence: poverty, lack of opportunity, despair, and we know that they will make our communities safer. Folks, I'm proud to say that Chicago is also on an economic comeback. We are on the road to recovery. With revenue beginning to return, companies choosing to build or expand here in Chicago, we call those their pro-Chicago decisions, 150 and counting this year. 12 unicorns, that's companies with $1 billion worth and counting this year. And just recently, an upgrade from negative to stable from Fitch Ratings Agency. A recognition that we have navigated these dangerous financial waters in ways that sets us up to be on solid ground going forward. And friends, it's no small feat to say that we will achieve structural balance in 2023, despite the enormous deficit that we face coming into this administration, and on top of that, a global pandemic. I have my all-women dream team to thank for that. Jenny Bennett, our CFO, Susie Park, our budget director, and Reshma Soni, our controller. Thank you, ladies. We are bouncing back. We are bouncing back because our fiscal prowess and prudence, and because of how well we have managed through the pandemic, how we have managed through this pandemic. No other large city navigated the pandemic like us, partnering with community leaders through the Racial Equity Rapid Response Team, Illinois Unidos, to attack head-on COVID disparities, mounting the most efficient and equitable vaccine distribution program in the country, and navigating surges through swift and sound policymaking. Dr. Allison Arwady and her team at Public Health are heroes, and helped us save lives in this city. And our community-based partners, we worked together. We told the truth. Even when it was hard for people to hear, we followed the science and the data, and we are all the better for it. Because we managed COVID so well, our revenues this year actually exceeded expectation. And this budget ensures that through our economic engines, we will get back to full throttle through investments in our businesses, large and small, in our communities. Speaking of small businesses, this budget builds on the successes that we have had with Shy Biz Strong and other policies to make it easier to start and grow a business here in Chicago. And our investments in both BACP and the Department of Procurement Services will establish offices that focus solely solely on leveling the playing field for our minority and women-based business owners. Wealth building is what we are about in the city of Chicago, and I'm proud to say that we are creating pathways for Black, Brown, Asian, Native American, and women business owners to be principals, not just subcontractors. We know that when we invest in our communities, they become economic engines in and of their own right. The great historian, Tamil Black, taught us so much about the robust history of Black Chicago, documenting through his legendary storytelling thriving places like Bronzeville, where dollars turned over and over again, in redline communities with vibrant commercial corridors and all of the amenities that attract more business and growth. In this budget, we will build on the commitment that we made 2 years ago in Invest Southwest, which, by the way, we have met and exceeded. We are investing another $160 million into community development, addressing abandoned lots in too many of our abandoned communities, as we have begun to do in Garfield Park, and catalyzing the kind of development that garners attention, businesses, and importantly, people and jobs. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about our environment and our absolute necessity to be stewards here as well. We must advance our efforts to protect and restore our local environment. Setting and implementing bold, equitable climate goals are necessary for cities as diverse as Chicago. With this budget, I am proud to say that we will be making the largest one-time investment in climate mitigation, adaptation, and environmental justice priorities in this city's history, over $100 million. Setting us on a course to protect Chicago in all of its glory for centuries to come. And one of the most exciting outcomes of these investments in our sustainability is a commitment to plant 75,000 trees, the largest tree canopy program in the city's history. Using the power of green infrastructure, we will strengthen our communities from the inside out. Investments in the arts and culture, our parks, and travel and tourism round out our strategies to strengthen our economy and spark further population growth by cementing Chicago's ability to thrive economically. You know, I care a lot about the arts and culture. And for the first time ever, we're making a commitment in our corporate budget for $10 million so that our commitment to arts and culture does not depend upon the vagaries of the hotel tax. And while we are protecting our ability to provide every Chicagoan with top-notch city services and investing in internal improvements that will make it easier to deal with the city, whether you are creating a bill payment plan or getting a tree trimmed. Taken all together, our investments in this budget paint a vivid picture of the post-pandemic future we deserve and can achieve. And we've done this by going where we needed to go, listening to our residents, being in concert with them, understanding their pain, what they needed to be able to thrive. This budget reflects that months-long process of engagement, of being humble and going in with a listening ear. Fulfilling many commitments and responsibilities we have to our residents is a task that simply cannot be accomplished by one person, one program, or even one budget. But it can be done by all of us working together as one Chicago. That's why I'm thrilled that we have not only passed the most progressive budget ever in the history of our city, but we did it through the most inclusive process that the city has ever seen. Thanks to you and all those today who voted yes to the historic funds and our 2021 amended budget, which appropriated the ARP funds, and in our 2022 budget. 2 yes votes that we will look back on as a critical turning point for our city. Let me end with this. I think a lot about Harold Washington in these moments. And this morning I was doing a little research and reading a Tribune article from 1987 in October, when Harold Washington announced what would be his last budget. He was struggling, as you know, because of forces that didn't want him to succeed, that didn't want to see change come to the city. He never lived long enough to see that budget come to fruition. But with the passage of this budget, we picked up the baton that he has relayed to us, and we are moving forward to next generations to make sure that the promise that began in 1983, that was renewed in 1987, is a legacy that we pass on and that we leave for our children to be proud of us because we made the right and tough decisions in this moment. I've had a hard time sleeping the last few days, not because of fear, but because of excitement. The excitement of what the possibilities would be in this moment if we got this budget over the threshold. Ladies and gentlemen, I am overjoyed. With humility, with reflection, but also with incredible pride. You've heard me say this before, I'm humbled every single day to be the mayor of this great city in this moment, working with so many important leaders from our city council, but also from community organizations all across our city. We have a same vision. That is, we want a better Chicago for our residents for years to come. And with the passage of this budget, we have made another down payment on getting that job done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Alderman Scott Wagasback, and I've been a progressive since the first day I started in the City Council back in 2007. And I can vouch that this is the most progressive budget that I have ever seen and had the pleasure to support and vote for today. And I'm very happy to have my colleagues here, Alderwoman Dowell, or Chairwoman Dowell from the Budget Committee, Vice Chair of Finance Committee, Leslie Hairston, who really helped us move this budget forward. This is a budget of collaborative efforts of many aldermen and this administration that goes back 2 years. As we started to change the way that our committees worked, as we started to change the way the collaboration worked between the administration and aldermen, this is what it can lead to. A budget that addresses a lot of the ills and a lot of the concerns that many of you and all of the members of these organizations have had for many years and wanted to see that kind of change. I know it's been a very difficult couple of years getting through this global pandemic, and who would have ever known that we would be at this point. But I think it was very prescient of the mayor to pick Dr. Arwady, an epidemiologist, who basically guided us through with her staff, with all of her staff, through this moment in time. And without them, I think we might have been in more trouble, but I want to give her a hand because when we look at how we came out of this on a strong road to recovery, it is because, as Mayor Lightfoot said, we listened to the science and we did the right things to get us back on a path that would allow for this strong recovery. We made some painful decisions, though, on the way. We had to stabilize city debt, and we had to make fiscally correct decisions. And those fiscally correct decisions were done by the mayor and by a strong staff. I want to thank the IGA who helped us through this day in, day out. I want to thank the budget staff of Chairwoman Dowell, who were sending us messages late into the night, responding to the over 1,000 questions that aldermen had for our department heads throughout this budget process. That is a lot of back and forth, and I have to say that any alderman who said they didn't get their questions answered, something might be off there, because all you had to do was look through each one of those, continually read through them, and understand that the staff were doing everything they could to answer the questions. These funds that we have for affordable housing, for mental health, for homeless prevention, and countless other social services are really going to provide for neighborhoods that have been disinvested in for decades. And I am proud to stand with the mayor as we see these funds go away from wards that have perpetually seen that investment and move it into areas of the city that we are interdependent on but have never recognized that. People and places will no longer be disenfranchised. And the programs include direct investment for a more equitable city. When we look at this moment trying to help people face the insecurities, not just because of the global pandemic, but lifelong racial wealth gaps, I am happy to stand with the mayor to take on that fight. The guaranteed income here is not much unlike child tax credits or stimulus checks or PPE funds that went to many of our restaurants and businesses. And what we hope to see is that those funds that go to those people who need it the most in our city, the people who are trying to survive day in, day out, each one of us has a story like that. Each one of us has a family friend, somebody who went through the same situation that needs this to get them through this time. And I think it will, if we're looking at how they invest it, if we're looking at where they put it back into the city, it will create that stronger economy that we're looking for. This budget does help right the financial ship. A lot of you heard back in July that Moody's Investor Services changed its outlook on geo-debt from negative to stable. That was another positive step that this team, the finance team, based more of these sound fiscal policies on in this budget. In Bond Buyer yesterday, Fitch Ratings commented, quote, "Outlook revision to stable reflects the ongoing revenue recovery across the city and significant infusion of federal fiscal aid to ease the pressure and allow for this investment-grade standing." While we still face considerable financial challenges, and the last 2 years have shown a difference in that approach and how we can move forward. And how do we keep improving? With continued collaboration and sound fiscal management. We've climbed the billion-dollar pension debt. We are beginning to pay down our debt. We've done away with one of our most hated fiscal policies, which was scoop and toss. And we are moving to issue new bond money for transformative capital investments that aldermen and people in the city have wanted for decades. We also have a property tax levy that does include a very modest increase. But instead of the hand-wrenching that aldermen did for decades, waiting and waiting to add to that property tax and then getting stuck with $500 million bills, we now have a modest increase that provides stability and predictability for every taxpayer in Chicago. But that being said, we also have to fight for stronger revenue streams, perhaps a graduated state income tax that passes at the state level to help out every city, not just Chicago. So jumping ahead, I just want to say a very heartfelt thanks to the women who led us through this challenge, and I was proud to stand with them. When we look in the back there, the great thanks, along with the mayor, should go to Budget Director Susie Park, Chief Financial Officer Jenny Wong Bennett, and Comptroller Rishma Soni. When I look at the combined experience at the table at every meeting that we had, the decades of experience of municipal government and outside finances, it was incredible to work with these women, to be able to understand everything that was being put across the desk, everything from the bond deals to guaranteed basic income. They were able to explain it in a way that anybody could understand, and it made it more, not just more palatable, but easier for us to move forward on this budget in a way that I think will be a boon for our economy and create that stronger recovery. Finally, I want to especially thank Chairwoman Dowell and her staff. Many late nights where we were going back and forth, and I think if you look at the way the council used to run the budget, it is a lot different than we saw in the past. And that says volumes about again, the women who are running the city, who are doing the right things to make sure that taxpayers understand where every dollar is being spent, and that those dollars being spent are not only for the economic recovery now, but for a stable future for all Chicagoans. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am a woman of few words. I am delighted that the budget has passed. It has been a long, long process, and I am exhaling. So I want to thank my colleague, Chairman Wagasback, for going through all the little details about the budget. What has been really exciting to me over the last few months has been watching my colleagues and hearing from the community and working with the mayor's office and the finance team to really craft a budget that is going to make changes in the city of Chicago in every single neighborhood across the city. I believe that this budget reflects the desires of my colleagues. Not every idea made it into the budget, but I can tell you over the course of the last 6 months, if you had an idea and it made sense and we could work it out, it's in that budget. It is reflected in that budget. And it all starts at the top. This is the mayor's moment, and the mayor's leadership makes this possible because there was collaboration. There was a sense of we're all in it together. Let's make this budget about the recovery and the resiliency of the city of Chicago. And when you have a leader who gives out that kind of signal, that makes it easier for us in the city council to work with her, to work with the administration, to work with the finance team in the best interest of the city of Chicago. That's what it's all about. Right. So I am very proud to be a part of this budget and am happy for the opportunity, Mayor. You know I did not always want to do this. I am happy for the opportunity to lead our colleagues in this effort. I look forward to the work that's coming in the future with the subcommittee that's going to be transparent and open about how we spend these dollars so that the people of the city of Chicago can see that together we worked in their best interest. Thank you.
Let me say one last thing before we, hopefully we, take questions. If you look around this room and you look at the people that are on the stage, this is our city. These are people who are on the front lines every single day, whether they're from a labor union, whether they're from a community organization, mental health, health care, immigrants and refugees. It is an entire mosaic of people who care about the residents of the city, who came together to help craft this budget that meets the needs and meets the moment. So I just want to say again to everyone who's here, everyone who participated in this incredibly historic budget engagement process that started last spring, thank you so very much. Thank you for caring about our residents. Thank you for everything that you all do.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. We're going to kick it off with Heather Sharon from WTTW. 2 questions per reporters, folks.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi, how are you?
You campaigned in 2019 on a promise to reopen mental health clinics that were closed by Mayor Rahm Emanuel, but up until the Friday committee meeting, you had resisted to putting more money in the mental health clinics, and this budget includes $6.3 million to increase staffing by 73%, which was insisted upon by the Progressive Caucus. Does that represent a reevaluation by you and your administration that the city's mental health clinics have been underfunded in the first 2 years of your administration?
So let me just correct a little bit the premise of your question. We have consistently funded our clinics every year. They are a crucial part of the community of care and continuum of care that we created and that we announced back in the fall of 2019. So it's a misnomer to say that we're suddenly funding them. We have been funding them consistently. And what I'll say is that the additional resources that we put into the clinics is because of ASME and their ask. And we sat down and we negotiated in good faith and came to an agreement. So ASME really is the one that should get the credit for that. Obviously, there were members of the City Council that brought these issues to our attention, but it was really our partnership and thoughtfulness on the part of ASME. And I'm pointing to Adrian, who's here representing ASME, but that's really where that came from. Our clinics are important, but what we know from a lot of conversation with the spectrum of mental health service providers and from patients themselves is they want community-based solutions and solutions that are easily accessible and that can accommodate a range of services, not just the most acute services, which is what our clinics were serving. And I think it's also important to know this. At the height of our clinic operations, 12 strong, we served roughly about 6,000 people a year. Now we're serving almost 30,000 people a year. And that is because of the investments that we've made, triple the amount of mental health investments since 2019 and more to come.
After your first budget in 2019, which literally seems like a decade ago.
I was going to say, I hope you're not asking you to remember something from that long ago, but I'll do my best.
You put together a budget that encouraged Chicagoans to reach out to the aldermen who voted no. Will you be doing that again this year, given that most of the aldermen who voted against your budget are on the more conservative side of things?
Well, I don't think that's actually accurate. If you look at the various budget votes, we got an interesting cross-section of people from really every point of the spectrum, right, Leslie? Every point of the spectrum of the various city council caucuses. So I think what this is about is showing that we can work together with a cross-section of members of the council, that we have worked together with a wide array of people in the community. And so for me, this is about celebrating a victory for our residents.
Justin Lawrence from Black Club.
So you've touted, and Alderman Wagasback just touted, the CPI increase, the annual property tax increase, as a way for residents to, have predictability and stability in their bills. I know that you just passed this budget, but next year it looks like that will be much higher than this year, maybe over 4%, up to the 5% cap that's included. Will you commit now to fighting for that to be included in next year's budget?
So just to be clear, the CPI was passed last year. It's a part of our budgets on a going forward basis. And I think this is what's important for folks to know. The average, if you have a house that's about $200,000, which candidly most people in the city of Chicago don't have, but let's use that as our marker. What the CPI is for this year? Anyone? $1.50 a month. $1.50 a month. And so as Chairman Wagasback has said, Chairman Dow has said, our finance team has said, what we have tried to do with the passage of the CPI is give stable, predictable increases. No mayor wants to pass a property tax increase. No one likes it, and I get that. But what we've seen in the past, going back 10 years, 20 years, is that the failure to make the hard decisions at the right time creates a crisis. And we've seen that story repeated over and over and over again, which isn't fair. When you have nothing and then all of a sudden this huge spike that becomes the largest tax increase ever, as we've seen repeated several times in the last 20 years, that destroys the average property owner's ability to be able to save for that, predict that coming. That's not a good fiscal management. And we're all about making sure that we are real fiscal fiduciaries of our taxpayers and looking out for them with a stable, predictable property tax that they know is coming, that they can plan for, and isn't going to sock them right in the gut every few years because politicians wouldn't make the tough calls when they needed to. Those days are over as long as I am there.
All right. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just a second question. I want to give you a chance to respond to Alderman David Moore. Told me that he asked you directly for, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, I believe a $6 million investment into a park project in his ward, and that would have secured his yes vote. I know you were talking to him today during the council meeting. Is that what that conversation was about, or was that over a phone call this morning? And why not make that commitment so that he could tell his, his constituents that he was bringing something back to his ward?
We have been negotiating this budget for months. Aldermen had plenty of opportunity to put on the table the things that they wanted. And so I'm not going to reveal the contents of a private conversation, but there was plenty of times for those conversations to be had. He voted no on everything, and he'll have to explain to his community why he didn't support affordable housing, support for the homelessness, support for mental health, for small businesses, for making sure that our residents were able to get access to a $500 a month over a year stipend, many of whom in his community would probably qualify. You really ought to ask those questions to him.
Thanks, Mayor. Erin Haggerty, Daily Line.
Hi there. This year's budget process was different from any others with the federal stimulus money to allocate, but also it started a month earlier than it has in the past. Was there a most surprising thing that you learned and can take away from this year's budget process? And will this set up? Will we always be passing a budget by the end of October going forward?
Well, actually, the process started in late spring, early summer, with a range of meetings with a variety of stakeholders, many of whom are in this room today. I believe that the process that we had this year was the most inclusive, most engaging. So that's a process, absolutely, that I'd like to see us repeat for next year and years to come. What I've heard consistently from folks is they really feel like they had an opportunity to understand the complexities of the budget, to articulate a set of their requests on behalf of the constituencies that they represented. I think most aldermen, whether they agreed with it or not, had, as Chairman Dow said, multiple opportunities to be heard and to put forward ask on behalf of their residents. Will it be October versus November? I think we have to look and see what happens next year. But it's not as much about the timing as it is, for me, about the process and making sure that we are engaging and transparent. That's why you have so many different groups that were happy to not only say that they supported it, but to lobby on behalf of this budget. We're in a unique time, and we look not only this year, but at next year. So we'll see, but I think our economy is getting better. Our revenues, as I indicated, are coming in better than expected. And as they say, God willing, and the creek don't rise, we will put this pandemic in the rearview mirror.
And is there anything that's not included in the budget that you wish would have been included? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of things, but what was at the top of your
I'm going to resist my temptation to offer you a flip remark. Look, there's always things that are left on the cutting room floor. That's what the budget process is all about. But we'll continue to have discussions and engagement. But the most important thing is we have set our city up for success with the passage of this budget today. That's why I've had restless nights making sure that we were getting everything done, but also excited about what's to come. Because really, we entered the next phase, and there's a lot of discussion that has to happen around requirements and standards and criteria for the distribution of some of these funds. And I'm looking forward to engaging with the members of City Council and also the other stakeholders that are represented here and in other corridors on those things that are important for our communities and how we can really make the kind of catalytic investments that we have been making, but this is just going to supercharge that and really accelerate the opportunities for our residents.
Thanks, Aaron. A.D. Quigg, Cranes.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
I wanted to get your reaction to the enrollment declines at CPS that were reported today. What could the district have done differently to keep families there?
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, I would flip the question around. We've been through a global pandemic. We had to quickly transition to remote learning. We know that that didn't work for a lot of families. There's been a lot of challenges and struggles that have been revealed throughout the course of this pandemic that hit our most vulnerable residents the hardest, many of whom are reflected in CPS. I know that the CPS team worked their tails off, because I got weekly reports of it, in really trying to engage those students who either didn't show up for remote or in-person learning last spring. So given all of that, the fact that we're down only 10,000, to me, is a minor miracle. And the CPS team is continuing every single day to reach out to those folks to understand where they are and what we might do to bring them back. So I feel like, given the circumstances, 10,000, and I'll really say it in the flip, the 320 plus thousand, 40,000 that did show up and were there by the 20-day count is a testament to the hard work of many at CPS, and I salute them for those efforts. And as I said, they work their tails off every single day, making literally tens of thousands of contacts by phone, by email, by door knocking. They did yeoman's work. And we've got to make sure that we continue to build strong, healthy communities, and that's what this budget is all about. So we give families a reason to say yes and stay in our city, and I feel very good about where we are and how we're moving forward.
A few aldermen today brought up the sustainability of these ARP and GEO-funded programs included in the recovery plan. Mm-hmm. Are you stressing future budgets by starting new programs that the public relies on, only to have to scramble for funding later?
I don't think so. We thought a lot about this. We're pretty sophisticated in recognizing that the federal dollars that we fought our tails off to get, recall, not that long ago, there was no money for cities. We were left on our own a year ago when we were doing our budget. The December stimulus gave us a tiny bit of resources, but nothing that addressed the revenue loss. So we treat these dollars with the preciousness with which they are, but also being very clear-eyed about the likelihood of us getting additional federal dollars is pretty slim. Look what goes on every single day in Washington. An infrastructure bill that 70% of Americans of both parties believe is the right thing to do, and yet we can't get that passed with both houses of Congress and a president from the same party. The $1 trillion plus Build Back Better program that has so many things that will completely transform the lives of so many. Can't get that through Congress. So we were very clear-eyed in thinking about these dollars as making one-time investments. And you'll see that a lot of this is going to programs and infrastructure building in communities that is one-time in nature, but will have a years and years and years and generations of impact. So I think we've struck the right balance. We didn't load up the corporate budget with a lot of things that we couldn't pay for in the out years. But man, oh man, are we going to use those federal dollars for good in our city.
Thanks, Mayor. Greg Pratt, Tribune.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Silvana Tabarez and about 12 other aldermen want to have a meeting on Friday to discuss the vaccine mandate and to try to overrule your mandate. What are your thoughts on that meeting and on their latest push there?
What I think is that today is a day for celebration, and we'll deal with the politics another time.
Do you plan to attend the meeting, though, if they show up and there's a quorum?
As I said, today is a day for celebration, and we'll deal with the politics another time.
All right, Mariah Wolfo, WBZ.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
Are you committed to releasing the Inspector General report on the Anjanette Young case?
Well, I'm going to follow the law, and if that's what the law dictates. But that report and that investigation, from my perspective, is not done. So there's more road that we have to journey down before we're even at the point of making that decision.
Okay. And then there's news out today that Avis Lavelle and Mike Kelly were aware of potential criminal allegations at 10 city pools and beaches as early as August 2020, and it didn't go public until 8 months later. Meanwhile, they were recruiting new lifeguards for the park district. Do you think Avis Lavelle should stay or go as park board president?
So here's what I'm going to say about this ongoing situation at the park district. What I'm thinking about is about those brave young women that came forward, who told their stories in truth and in an atmosphere I think that was very difficult. So I think in order to do service to them, we need to let the investigation be complete. The facts will be followed where they may, and that between now and then, I think we've got to let the investigators do their work.
All right, William from Newsmax. William, can you please use your mask, please?
Sir, hold on, no. Hold on. Everybody in this room has a mask on. If you're, hold on.
You're not wearing a mask.
Everybody,
You're not wearing a mask.
Everybody in this room, you never wear a mask when you come in.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask a question, and then I'll be more than, excuse me, sir, that's totally...
You know what, you don't wear a mask when you come into our, no, you don't wear a mask when you come in, you don't wear a mask. You've never had it on, sir. Where is it? Take it out, let's see it.
Please put it on.
Why don't you put it on? What's the problem? All these other people ask questions and they didn't have masks to articulate and make sure that people can hear me.
Do you mind if I just ask my question?
All right, but this is the last time you're coming into my press conference and not having a mask on. You didn't wear it when you came in here.
Yes,
you didn't
I
wear
did.
it when you sat here.
Yes,
and I'm not going
I
to
did. I have
tolerate
pictures
this.
of myself.
I'm not.
I have pictures of myself wearing the mask.
Not in this room, and never in any other room.
It's okay. That is a lie.
It's okay, security.
That's a lie.
He's going to behave himself.
That's a lie.
He's going to behave himself. Ask the question.
Mayor Lightfoot, I can totally understand how you might think that $16 billion can buy you a lot of votes in the upcoming election. But a recent poll showed that over half of Chicagoans do not want you to even run for re-election. You were recently booed off stage at the Plumbers Union. The Plumbers Union, which was the first union to endorse you. Why do you suppose so many Chicagoans, over half apparently, do not want you to run for re-election?
So, sir, I don't know what polls you're looking at, but my polls say
It's
something.
on the Fox 32 website, WFLD TV.
Fox News. There you go. That's. I know you like coming here and being very controversial, but we're here today to talk about investments on behalf of our city. And we're here to talk about what's in the best interest of our residents. The politics will take care of itself. I feel very comfortable about where I am and what the level of support I have in every neighborhood in the city. Most of what you said is, I won't use the word that just came to mind. I'll just say nonsense and half-truths. Let's go on.
My follow-up question, my second question, is simply this. Since you became mayor, over 1,000 police officers have simply quit, left the job. Okay? You have a vaccine mandate for the police that you apparently don't have for the teachers. Why is that? Especially considering the fact that it's already been proven that the vaccine does not spread the virus or prevent people from even getting the virus.
I don't know what world you live in, but here on planet Earth, the vaccine is safe, it is life-saving, and it's proven to save lives. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder? A little bit better.
Mic needs to be switched on, please.
Testing. Here, you can use this one, Aaron. Testing. 1, 2.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hello. Wonder if you could speak a little bit about business supports in the budget. Obviously, the Mid-South Side's got more affluent areas, some areas that are in West Southwest. There's a lot of disparate areas there. If you could speak a little bit about business supports, in general. I know you did during introductory remarks, but specific to more struggling areas and then areas that are, on more supportive business corridors, but, are also coming out of a recession, what this budget is doing for them.
Well, I think you've got to think about it in kind of a holistic way. There are specific dollars that are intended to go to small businesses, and we will build upon the $100 million plus that we provided for small business supports with additional dollars. We'll be distributing them in the same equitable way that we've done before, which is making sure that we're reaching those small businesses and micro businesses that have the greatest need. So that's part of it. But the other part is this. When we support working families and individuals, we're also supporting those businesses. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but we want to be holistic in the way in which we are supporting the businesses in our communities. That's why we spend so much time engaging with chambers of commerce, individual businesses, business organizations. Sam Toya's here from the Illinois Restaurant Association, and has been a fearless advocate for his community. He's also talking to various unions that represent workers at businesses across our city. I feel very good about the investments we've made because they're informed by the partnerships and collaborations that have really served us well throughout the course of the pandemic.
Crane's already got to my question about what's going to happen with the budget once the federal aid ends, but I'm curious about what you said in your answer to it. Obviously, Mayor of Chicago's got a bully pulpit within the Democratic Party, and you said, you're unsure whether or not the president's domestic agenda is going to pass as far as the infrastructure bill or Build Back Better. Can you speak a little bit more to that? I'm curious about your.
What I'm saying is this: we don't have the luxury of waiting. We don't have the luxury of kicking the can down the road. There's no city, no mayor, particularly in this time when residents are in such need, that we can wait and hope and pray that something's going to happen at the federal level. We have to play the cards that we were dealt. We now have this opportunity, because of the ARP funds that have come, to chart our own future, and that's exactly what we've done. If the rest of it happens and it falls into place, I'm all for it. I'm an ardent supporter of President Biden. I'm an ardent supporter of the infrastructure funds. I've been calling and cajoling anyone that I could speak to, from obviously our federal delegation here, led by our great senior Senator Dick Durbin, but also talking to fellow mayors across the country. You can clap for Senator Durbin. He deserves that. So the point is that we have to make decisions based upon the facts as we know them today. If other resources come available, and I pray that they do, because there's a lot that we have at stake as a city with the projects that are there, the competitive grants that I think would be extraordinarily helpful to us, I'm going to do everything I can to keep pushing and getting those really important bills over the finish line. But as the mayor of the city, with a budget that we needed to pass now, we needed to do it with a clear vision of where our revenue sources were coming from, and that's what we've done. So the point here is not to speculate about what may or may not happen at the federal level. I'm optimistic, and I hope that it happens, but I also am realistic about the vagaries of the politics in Washington, D.C. But what I know here now is we have passed the most progressive, most I think transformative budget that we've ever seen. I meant what I said before about Harold Washington. People that I know that were close to him, that worked so hard to build a working majority on that city council so his dreams for a better Chicago could actually be realized. Those dreams are coming true now. They're dreams delayed, but they're not dreams denied. And we have an opportunity to move forward.
Mayor, last two questions of the day coming from Mike Flannery.
Hey, Mike.
Hi.
You got the
Mayor.
right jacket on, my friend.
I do. I'm still heartbroken. It still hurts so bad. But you may not have seen a survey that we reported on over the weekend showing only 26% of likely Chicago voters believe you deserve a second term. Mm-hmm. You may disagree with those numbers, but what would you say to voters who are disappointed in your performance?
What I would say is this. This is a really difficult time, and people are angry and fearful because of a lot of forces that are beyond all of our control. And it's a long time between now and Election Day. And the politics will take care of themselves. Obviously, we do our own polling, and so I have a reason to be skeptical about your numbers. But I feel very good about where we are. I feel it and see it all over the city. People are coming up and talking about how much they appreciate the work that we are all doing collectively. I think you can see the representation of the folks that are here as well. So, you know, there are some of you in the media who like to write my obituary, and they've been doing it since, when did I get sworn in? The beginning of the middle of May of 2019. People have counted me out before. You know, your poll in January of 2019 showed me at 1% with no chance of survival. And I didn't get invited to the table, Mike, as you remember, when you were hosting bigger names with more money. But here I sit as the mayor of this city, and here I will remember.
One last question from Kate Chappell, NBC.
Just one. Just to follow up on universal basic income, when do you anticipate releasing more information on who specifically will be eligible, if and when they'll be able to apply, and just any more information about when that will roll out?
Yeah, I can't give you a specific date, but we are actively at work in talking to members of the City Council about what the right criteria should be. As I said, the lens with which we will view this is the lens that we've used before in distributing CARES Act dollars, the Small Business Resiliency Fund that we stood up very early on in the pandemic, the Micro Business Fund, the Emergency Rental Assistance. We've always used an equity lens that focuses on those that are hurting most in these times. So that's the lens that we're using, and we've discussed some criteria back and forth, but we'll land that plane soon because we're anxious to start getting those dollars out the door.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. That's a wrap. Thank you so much.